I think it's a make or break season for the Pelicans this year. Welcome in or welcome back. We're halfway through. We're talking about the New Orleans Pelicans, and they made some noise earlier this offseason with a more significant trade of the entire offseason with yesterday's video, the Atlanta Hawks. And I'll be upfront and honest about it. I was more a fan of this trade for DeJounte Murray for the Pelicans than I was the Atlanta Hawks. And I don't think that was the consensus both ways. I think a lot of people forget exactly how good DeJounte Murray is. We got to see what he could be very early on in that Spurs system. And when he was traded away from the Spurs to Atlanta, in the moment, at that time, we were looking at that and go, wow, the Atlanta Hawks absolutely fleeced the San Antonio Spurs. But after a couple seasons with the Atlanta Hawks, we're now looking at DeJounte Murray going, is he even a good point guard in the league? And let me assure you, he is. Great defender, great facilitator, great scorer. The problem within that Atlanta Hawks offense last year and a couple years prior to that was that he was required to do a lot off ball, and he is best with the ball in his hands. If you don't allow him that opportunity, he's not going to shine as well as he could. So now you are putting him in a position where he presumably would be the lead guard, and you would shift CJ McCollum back to the 2, BI at a 3, Zion at the 4, whoever at the 5. That does create some sort of a problem, though. You're now sinking up a lot of money in those 4 contracts that I had just listed off, and eventually the rubber's going to have to hit the road. Someone's going to have to leave town, and I think the easiest answer is going to be CJ McCollum. Now, first and foremost, I'm a big CJ fan. I appreciate who he is as a person more than anything, but he's still a good basketball player. He proved that he can be that facilitator over the last couple of years when he moved away from Portland. I think now with his age and his contract specifically, it's going to be really difficult to move him eventually, not to mention the fact that he doesn't mesh the timeline with the rest of this young core. The other very talked about trade is going to be the Brandon Ingram trade, and I think he's been on the trade block probably more than everybody else in the entire league, and I don't think that's exactly fair. Yes, Brandon Ingram has his limitations. He is not a super great defender, if only because of his effort issues, but he's still a great scorer, and he could be a great facilitator when you give him the opportunity. The problem is that he has had so many other ball handlers that he never has had that opportunity. If this season doesn't play out for the Pelicans like they want to, I think one of them are on the way out, maybe even both. Something I really appreciate about the Pelicans is their bench player, their role player depth. They have so many good rotational pieces that it kind of pisses the rest of the league off, including myself. When you have the likes of Herb Jones, Trey Murphy III, and Jose Alvarado, not to mention someone like Jordan Hawkins who could absolutely score 30 a night if you allowed him to, just in your repertoire behind your all-star caliber guys, it does seem really unfair. And that makes it even more perplexing that when you add those superstar caliber players, those all-star caliber players, with such great role players, it's kind of confusing how it never has worked out in the postseason. Now, the biggest factor for that is obviously Zion Williamson's health. It seems like, for the first time in his career, he is on track to have a healthy season and potentially a healthy postseason. You saw all the pictures, you saw all of the early season, the preseason stuff. It seems like he's in a good place, and I can only hope, for the benefit of the league and the viewing audience, that he continues down this path. Because let's not forget, a healthy Zion is one of the most incredible watches in the entire league. Now, I will say this. If Zion Williamson does not get it figured out, if he isn't healthy, if he is healthy but somehow disappoints or underperforms in the playoffs, this is absolutely going to be the last season that Zion Williamson wears a Pelicans jersey. Some of the trade partners are kind of tied up now. He was linked to the Knicks forever ago and multiple times throughout his tenure in the league. That's kind of been shored up now that the Karl Anthony Towns trade has officially gone through. But there are other teams like the Rockets and the Thunder that could be in play for someone like Zion. And you look me right in the eyes right now and you tell me that a team that has Jalen Green, Alperen Şengün, and Zion Williamson, or a team that has SGA, Chet Holmgren, and Zion doesn't excite you just a little bit. Luckily for the Pelicans, this is kind of a weaker year in the West. There's going to be a lot of shifting and there are going to be a lot of bottom feeders in the West. So I think at absolute worst, we're probably talking about a 7th or 8th seed in the West, and at best, we're probably talking about a home court advantage team. But again, the two biggest questions for this team this year is going to be, one, how does Zion play? Is he healthy? Is he going to be an active participant on the team? And two, how do we deal with the point guard play between Jose Alvarado and DeJounte Murray and CJ McCollum? It's going to have to be addressed at some point, and I think that it may be best sooner rather than later. if I were to make a prediction, a bold claim about this team, we're probably seeing CJ McCollum getting traded before the deadline. What do you think of the Pelicans? Do you think they're going to make some noise? Let me know down in the comments below. Check my link tree while you're at it. Join the Discord. Be kind. Tell somebody you love them. And I'll see you tomorrow.